Hi guys, in this video I'll cover the logical NOT operator. I first go over the truth table and then I demonstrate a few examples. Let's start out with the truth table. The logical NOT operator is an unary operator. That means it only has a single operand. The exclamation mark is used as a symbol and it is written in front of the operand. The operand can be a condition, it can be a Boolean variable, and what it will do is it will flip the sign. So let's take a look at the truth table. When this expression is false, writing not A will become true. When A is true, not A is false. So writing not A, it simply flips the Boolean value from false to true or from true to false. Let's take a look at an example. Let's say we want to check if a value is not even. I use a scanner and I listen to system.in. I import this and now I output a prompt. Print. Enter something that is not even. Now I declare a variable of type int named val and I read in the integer value into that variable. Now I want to use my condition. I want to check if the value is not even. So first of all, I just want to focus on the condition that doesn't have the if in front. Simply my A expression here. So I want to check if val is even. Val mod 2. This divides by 2 and gives me the remainder. Then I can check the remainder is 0. I know it is even. However, I want to check if it's not even. So what I will do is write the exclamation mark in front of it. Now I get an error because it only treats val, not val here. It only applies it to the variable val. And val is an integer, so this doesn't really work. I want to apply it to the overall condition. So what I will do is I write parentheses around it. This applies the not operator to the overall condition. Now what I want to do is when this value is not even, I want to output the message val is not an even number. Now let's run this. And first I enter 2, which is even. So nothing was outputted, so it ran all the way to the end. And I can also put a statement here so that we can actually see that it skipped the statement. Now I run it again, but I enter a different value here. Let's enter 5. So 5 is not even because it is odd. So this would output now val is odd because when we compute the condition here, val mod 2, it gives me 1. So the condition is false. And when this condition is false, not that condition will be true. So we can see when this is false, writing not A is true. Now there are many ways often to write the same condition. We could have simply done mod divided by 2 is not equal 0. Or we could have written val mod 2 equals 1 because there are only two cases. It can only be 0 or 1. If it's not 0, we know it is 1. So many times there are different ways of writing a condition. Now let's move on to another example. Let's say we want to check a Boolean variable. So in this case, I want to check if somebody recently graduated or did not recently graduate. And if they did not recently graduated, I output a statement of encouragement. So first of all, I use system.out.print with a question, did you recently graduate? And the answer can be true or false. And then I use a Boolean variable, has recently graduated. I use a scanner to read in the next Boolean value. Now I want to use a condition, and as I mentioned, I want to check if they did not recently graduated. So I do not, and then the Boolean variable, has recently graduated. Now Boolean variables, it should always start with the prefix of has or is. Because first of all, we can recognize them very quickly in our programs, but it also makes it more natural in conditions. So when we check here, for example, if not has recently graduated, we can read it a bit more natural. And in this case, I just output a statement. Keep on doing a good job at your studies. So this will only be entered if this variable is false. So let's run this here. Now I put something 0 for the first one to skip, and let's say I did recently graduate. I put in true, so we can see it skipped it, because when this is true, not a variable becomes false. It flips the sign. Now I enter it again, 0, and here I write false. Then we can see it entered, outputted the message. So when we have not and a Boolean variable, this variable has to be false. It essentially does this check, has recently graduated equal false. But this is the more standard way to write it. Just put an exclamation mark in front, and then we can quickly see that it checks if the variable is false. Now let's do one last example. Let's say we want to check if a value is not within 0 to 100. So if it's not inside the range of 0 to 100. I output a prompt first, enter, and I read that into the variable that I already declared above. So I simply assign the return value from nextInt to this variable. And now I want to check if it's not inside the range. So first again, I write the condition from 0 to 100. If the value is larger or equal to 0 and the value is less than or equal to 100. Then I output a message. Val is not within 0 to 100. So I mentioned that not here. So I wanna currently the condition still checks if the value is within 0 to 100. So again, just like the first example, I add an exclamation mark in front, put the condition in parentheses, and now it checks if it's not inside the range. So let's execute this a couple times. I enter just 0 and false for the first two examples to skip them. And now I can enter a value here. So let's enter a value that is inside the range. Let's say 25. It will check the first part. 25 is larger or equal to 0. This is true. Then it moves on to the second condition here. Is 25 less than or equal to 100? This is true as well. So if both of them are true, the logical AND operator will result in a true as well, because all conditions are true. Now when we have true with the NOT operator in front, we can see the condition becomes false. So this one here should be false, and we should skip that statement. This is what we're seeing. Now let's try something outside of the range. I put 0 and true to skip, and here I can enter a value. Let's enter 101, 101. This outputted the statement, because this one is true, but this one is false. So true and false for the logical AND operator becomes false. And then when we have false and write not in front, you can see it up here, this becomes true. So the overall condition here is true for that value. It entered it, and then it outputted the statement. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out my other video on how to simplify conditions that use the NOT operator. Thank you for watching.